Father Stephan Paridis had been a very well-liked parish priest. He was kind, generous, and always had time for his parishioners. Yet, there was someone who hated him enough to have him killed in cold blood while he lay sleeping. The goodly priest had started to criticize big business and certain governments shortly before his death. Could any of this have played a part in his demise? Or was there something in his past that came back to bite him?
Hello there, it's Detective DJ, and welcome to our second week of our second season. We hope that you're having fun. We hope that you enjoyed our first week of our second season. We certainly enjoyed bringing it to you, and by now you would have heard the description to this second episode, Diary of a Parisian Priest. We can assure you that this episode is different from the first episode, Supper at the Seaside. We hope that you enjoy the second episode, and might as well get started. Diary of a Parisian Priest. The crime scene opens with Dr. Ryan Martini coming in to tell us the following that has occurred. Father Stephan Paridis was found shot dead in his bed. The room was small and neat, and in the room there was a twin-sized bed and dresser. There was also a small wash basin with a mirror over it, and there was a night table with a clock and a wallet on it. Presumably, the wallet belonged to the good father. In one corner of the room, there was a small closet with the priest's clothes, and the wallet had not been disturbed. It appears that Father Stephan had been shot as he slept. My. The window had been left open, and it was the housekeeper who had found his body on the following morning. There were prints found and a handkerchief also found at the scene of the crime. Now, according to our Dr. Shea Harrington, who always has something to say with regard to the murder, the murderer, and why the murderer would have done what they did, and where they would have done it, and when they would have done it, the murderer did it because they wanted to commit the murder in the priest's bedroom. And the perfect occasion for the murderer to have chosen was when Father Stephan was asleep. What a coward. Now, Father Stephan was obviously there because he lived there. It was a presbytery where he lived. Now let's go on to the reasons or causes or possible motives for anyone wanting to have killed the good father. Father Stephan was a very outspoken priest. Well liked, but very outspoken. And according to our Chip, who now comes to us with his thoughts on this crime. Could it have been a disgruntled parishioner? Maybe a banking official? Maybe an Eastern government official? 3 possible suspects. But why would they have been the suspects? According to our Chip, this is what he found out. Father Stephan had migrated from Russia to Paris when he was just 16. He had changed his name from Sasha Pavlov to Stephan Paridis. He had entered the priesthood, had studied to be a priest, and had become a priest. Was a very good priest, was a very likable priest. He had lived in Paris for some time, and then had migrated to North America. Wherever he went, Father Stephan had been well liked. But of late, Father Stephan had begun to change. His sermons had become anti-government, especially so towards the Eastern Bloc of governments. Russia, Romania, Bulgaria, other countries in that Eastern Bloc. But he was especially angry towards the Russian government. He had also begun to criticize big banks. And he had done this because he had discovered corruption within the banking industry. And he was determined to speak out. He had refused to go when summoned by the Archbishop. He didn't want to go. So he didn't go, and he continued to speak out about what he felt was wrong. A sealed envelope was found in the good priest's safe, and cash totaling about $50,000 was also found in his safe. In addition, there was a one-way ticket that was found in his safe, a one-way ticket to Montreal. According to his secretary and housekeeper, Father Stephan had recently begun to receive hate mails and hate emails, and threatening phone calls were being received at the priest's house. The staff had begun to become anxious and afraid for Father Stephan. But Father Stephan kept reassuring them that all would be well. There was nothing for anyone to be afraid of. Two strangers had also recently visited the priest, and they had been heard arguing vehemently with Father Stephan. The housekeeper and the other staff members, however, were not really sure what these arguments were all about. But they had heard these strangers threatening Father Stephan's life. Both strangers had something in common. They had both been dressed in dark suits, and in addition to that, a parishioner had been seen lurking close to Father Stephan's house of late. The plot thickens. Now, Father Stephan usually had his breakfast at around 7 a.m. every morning. He was a creature of habit, and his housekeeper knew this. But when Father Stephan had not come down for breakfast on this particular morning, the housekeeper had gone looking for him, and she had discovered his body and had called the police. This is a very interesting scenario, because we don't really know up until now who has really done it, or who has had the motive or the reason for wanting to have killed Father Stephan Paridis. But our Chip is always full of ideas, and here's what he has come up with. According to him, one of the suspects could have been Yannick LeBlanc, a parishioner. Another suspect could have been Pavel Sakharov, a Russian diplomat. Or it could have been Dominic Gatchel, a banking executive. If you want to take thoughts into consideration, these are the three suspects that he has fingered. Well, according to Dr. Nicolas Gasquet, the cause of death for Father Stephan Paridis is that he was killed with a single shot. It was one shot to the skull while the good father slept. Death had been instantaneous. He had been dead for about 6 to 9 hours before he was found by his housekeeper. I have taken into consideration all of the reports from our team here, and again, I could be wrong as heck, I could be right, or somewhere in between. But here's how I think it was done. The intruder had gained entry through the bedroom of the priest. Father Stephan had left it half opened before retiring for the night. He always liked to do this. It was a habit of his. As I mentioned before, he was a creature of habit. So this is what he did. He had left the window half open, and the killer had made very sure that Father Stephan was asleep before entering the bedroom through the window. He shot Father Stephan point blank in the head, and no one had ever heard the sound of the shot because the killer had used a silencer. The killer had then climbed back through the window, but had left some telltale signs behind: his boot prints and a monogrammed handkerchief. But he had disappeared into the night after committing the dirty deed. So, let's go on to the summary. And let's just revisit the crime scene. It is that of Father Stephan Paridis having been shot point blank in the skull. He was found by his housekeeper the morning after because he had not shown up for breakfast at his usual time of 7 a.m. And at 7:30, when she did not see him come down, she went up and she found him shot dead in his bed. The location was his bedroom. The occasion was that he was all alone, and this is what the murderer had wanted. And the reason for him being there is that he lived there. Suspects as fingered by Chip Sanderson: Yannick LeBlanc, a parishioner; Pavel Sakharov, a Russian diplomat; and Dominic LeBlanc, a banking executive. Now, I'm going to leave it to our young sleuth, Alex Kirchhoff, to give you some very interesting questions to think about. These questions are usually very telling ones because Alex feels that these questions will help you to solve the crime more quickly. So let's go over to Alex, and he is going to tell you what questions you should be pondering in order to solve this mystery.
Who possessed the strongest motive? Was there a link to his Russian roots? What about the boot prints and monogrammed handkerchief? Why the one-way ticket to Montreal? Why did Father Stephan have so much cash in hand? What could have been in the sealed envelope? Why had he become so outspoken? Why was the parishioner lurking close by?
So let's look at the revelations that I have come up with for you. And let's see if these revelations can help to solve this interesting mystery. The Russian diplomat and the banking official probably had the strongest motives. Now, Father Stephan Paridis had a past, which I will now reveal to you. He had been sent to Paris as a youngster as a sleeper KGB agent. And that means that the KGB had sent him there and had sort of made him an agent whereby he would not be doing anything until they decided that they wanted to activate him. So he was called a sleeper agent. And now the time had come for the Russians to wake him up. They had wanted Father Stephan to infiltrate the church. My. Father Stephan had strongly resisted, because after he had come to Paris and after he had studied to be a priest, he became involved in his new life, liked his new life, and almost forgot that he was there because the Russians had sent him there to be a sleeper agent. He forgot all about that. He had changed his mind and had wanted no part of the Russians or the KGB. The boot prints found in Father Stephan's room and on the windowsill, there was a tag left within the boot prints that showed where the boots were made. And the handkerchief's monogram was a dead giveaway. Father Stephan had gotten help to obtain a one-way ticket to Montreal because the person helping him knew that he was in trouble, loved Father Stephan, and wanted to help him get away from this terrible ordeal. Now, Father Stephan and his helper had chosen Montreal because he felt that it would be the city where he could start a new life based on his background and based on his preferences. Montreal was French, and Father Stephan had become French in many, many ways, having adopted the French culture when he moved to Paris from Russia. Yannick LeBlanc, the parishioner, had given Father Stephan the ticket and the money to leave and go to Montreal. Father Stephan had confided in Yannick LeBlanc, and Yannick LeBlanc was all willing and ready to help the goodly priest. And he had helped. He had agreed to help Father Stephan run away. The sealed envelope contained a diary that told everything. And in that envelope, there was also a letter to the Archbishop telling him what he had done, why he had done it, and what had gone on in his past. There was also evidence of corruption in the banking industry. All of this was found in that seal envelope. And Father Stephan had wanted everyone to know what he knew. Yannick Leblanc had wanted to protect Father Stephan, and this is why all this took place. But who really did it? Who really killed the goodly priest? Let's see what the straw poll says. Could it have been Dominic Gatchal, or could it have been Pavel Sakharov? Pavel Sakharov did it. He had left his boot prints and monogram handkerchief behind, and the tag that was found in the boot prints said "Made in Russia," and the initials PS was engraved on the handkerchief. So there you have it, folks. This is the end of this particular episode. It was a pleasure having been here this week. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you were able to solve the crime as well. And we will see you again next week. So thank you very much and have a great, great, great week.